Life will always give you two options: to make progress or to make excuses. Every time you face a challenge, you stand at a crossroads. One path leads to discipline, growth, and results. The other path is filled with excuses, regrets, and wasted potential. Excuses are easy. Anyone can say, I don't have time, I don't have money, or I'm not ready. But every excuse is a thief. It steals your dreams, your opportunities, and your future. The truth is, there will never be a perfect time. There will never be ideal conditions. If you wait until everything is right, you will wait forever. Winners don't wait. Winners don't complain. Winners act despite the obstacles. Think about every successful person you admire. Do you believe they didn't have problems, setbacks, or struggles? Of course they did. The difference is they refused to let excuses define them. They pushed forward, they fought, and they kept moving when others quit. You must understand this. Excuses are lies we tell ourselves to feel better about not trying. Discipline, responsibility, and relentless action. These are the tools of greatness. So stop waiting. Stop hiding behind reasons. Stop justifying inaction. If you want it, you must earn it. No excuses, no shortcuts, no surrender. Key 10 key points of the speech. No excuses. Excuses are thieves. They steal time, dreams, and opportunities. There is no perfect time. Waiting for the right conditions is an excuse itself. Winners act despite obstacles. They move forward when others stop. Excuses are lies created to comfort ourselves for not taking action. Every successful person faced struggles, but they didn't let excuses define them. Discipline is the antidote to excuses. Consistent effort beats hesitation. Effort beats hesitation. Responsibility creates freedom. Owning your actions removes the need for excuses. Progress over perfection. Moving forward matters more than waiting for ideal conditions. Excuses build regret. Action builds growth and confidence. No excuses, no limits. Once you stop justifying failure, success becomes possible. Excuses are one of the most dangerous habits a person can develop because on the surface they appear harmless. An excuse feels like a small justification, a reasonable explanation for why something didn't happen. You convince yourself that it's okay because a life got in the way. But underneath that justification lies a thief that is robbing you of your time, your growth, and your potential. Think about it. Every time you say, I'll start tomorrow, tomorrow steals from today. Every time you say, I don't have enough time, you give permission for hours to vanish without accountability. Every time you say, I can't because I don't have the right resources, you are allowing excuses to chain your potential, keeping you locked where you are instead of reaching where you could be. Excuses are not innocent words. They are silent killers of dreams. Time is the one resource you will never get back. You can lose money and earn it again. You can lose possessions and replace them. You can even lose relationships and rebuild new ones. But time, once it's gone forever. And excuses feed on time. They take minutes, hours, days, months, and even years. They deceive you into thinking you're justified in doing nothing. You tell yourself you'll start later, not realizing that later often never comes. And then years down the road, you look back and realize that all those excuses stole opportunities you'll never see again. Excuses don't just rob your time, they rob your confidence. Every time you choose an excuse instead of action, you weaken your belief in yourself. Deep down, you know when you've chosen an excuse over effort, that knowledge builds guilt, and guilt turns into doubt. Doubt becomes hesitation. Hesitation eventually becomes fear. And before you know it, you've convinced yourself you're not capable, when in reality you were capable all along. It wasn't your lack of talent or resources holding you back. It was the excuses you gave yourself permission to believe. Excuses also rob you of opportunities. Life doesn't hand out second chances easily. Sometimes the door opens only once. But if you hesitate, if you say, I can't right now, or maybe when I'm ready, that door closes. Someone else walks through it, and you're left standing outside, wondering what could have been. Every time you tell yourself a story about what you can't, you close the door on possibility. Opportunities rarely wait for those who make excuses. They reward the ones who take action even when conditions aren't perfect. Think about the people you admire, the ones who have achieved greatness in their fields. Do you think their path was free of challenges? Of course not. But they had every reason to make excuses. They had setbacks, failures, financial struggles, and personal doubts, but they refused to let excuses rob them of their chance at success. They understood that the longer you feed excuses, the more they control your destiny. And once excuses control your destiny, failure becomes inevitable. The scariest part about excuses is how comfortable they feel. Excuses don't hurt you immediately. In fact, they comfort you. They allow you to justify your inaction and avoid the pain of discipline. You tell yourself it's fine not to wake up early because you're too tired. You tell yourself it's okay not to pursue your goal because the timing isn't right. You feel good in that moment because the excuse shields you from discomfort. But that comfort is temporary. The pain of regret is permanent. Excuses trade short-term comfort for long-term suffering, and that is a deal no one can afford to make. Excuses are also contagious. Once you let them in, they multiply. If you allow yourself one excuse today, tomorrow you'll have 2, then 3, then 10. They start small, but they grow quickly. Before you realize it, excuses are running your life. You stop trying new things, stop pushing your limits, stop growing, you become a prisoner of your own justifications. And the saddest part is, the prison door was never locked, you held the key all along. But here's the raw truth. Excuses don't care about your dreams. They don't care about your family, your goals, your health, or your future. Excuses only exist to keep you comfortable and stagnant. They thrive in laziness, procrastination, and fear. And the more you give in to them, the more they steal. They are thieves of progress, thieves of ambition, thieves of greatness. And if you don't recognize them for what they are, they will quietly strip away everything you could have been. One of the most common excuses people make is waiting for their right moment. We tell ourselves we'll start pursuing our goals when things settle down, when we have more money, when we have more free time, or when the circumstances are finally perfect. But the truth is simple and undeniable. There will never be a perfect time. Life will always be messy. There will always be problems, distractions, and obstacles. If you keep waiting for everything to line up perfectly, you will wait forever. Now, perfection is an illusion, a lie that convinces you to postpone action. We imagine that success requires flawless conditions, but the reality is, success is built in the middle of chaos. Every great achievement in history was born not out of perfect circumstances, but out of struggle, uncertainty, and risk. The entrepreneur who started a company didn't have all the answers. The athlete who became a champion didn't wait for the ideal conditions to train. The writer who published their first book didn't wait for a perfect schedule or flawless inspiration. They began with what they had, where they were, and they figured it out along the way. Waiting for the perfect time is nothing more than fear disguised as patience. We dress it up as being a careful or a responsible, but underneath it, we're avoiding the discomfort of starting. The starting is scary because it forces us to confront our weaknesses and insecurities. So instead of beginning, we tell ourselves, I'll wait until I'm ready. But let me tell you this, you will never feel fully ready. Readiness doesn't come before action. It comes after action. Confidence is not something you wait for. It is something you build by doing. Think of it this way. When a seed is planted in the ground, it doesn't wait for perfect weather to start growing. It pushes through the dirt, the rocks, and the storms. It grows in imperfection, not in perfection. Human potential works the same way. Growth comes not when conditions are easy, but when we push forward despite difficulty. The moment you decide to act, even when things aren't ideal, is the moment you begin to create momentum. And momentum is more powerful than waiting for the stars to align. Every day you wait for the perfect time, you lose opportunities. Time moves whether you act or not. The clock doesn't stop because you're hesitating. Opportunities don't freeze in place until you're ready. They come and they go, and often they don't return. Imagine how many people in the world never chase their dreams because they convinced themselves the timing wasn't right. They thought they'd start after school, or after getting a better job, or after they saved some money. But then life threw new challenges at them. Family responsibilities, unexpected bills, health issues, and the perfect time never arrived. Years passed and their dreams remained just that, dreams. Successful people understand this truth. You must begin before you're ready. You must leap before you know exactly how you'll land. Because waiting for certainty means you'll wait forever. The great innovators, leaders, and creators of the world did not step into success with perfect timing. They stepped into success with courage. They were willing to take messy, imperfect action while others hesitated. And that imperfect action, repeated consistently, built the foundation for their greatness. Here's the dangerous part. The illusion of a perfect time feels logical. It tricks you into thinking you're being smart by waiting. You convince yourself that you're avoiding failure by not starting too soon. But in reality, waiting is the biggest failure of all. You fail by default when you never begin. You fail without even giving yourself the chance to win. At least if you start now, you create the possibility of growth. Waiting ensures nothing but regret. Life will never slow down enough for you to have a clear, empty schedule. There will always be bills to pay, responsibilities to manage is to face. If you don't start today, those same excuses will still exist tomorrow. The same excuses will still exist. And if you don't take action tomorrow, you'll find another excuse the day after. The cycle continues endlessly until you've wasted years convincing yourself that one day will be better. That one day is nothing but a mirage. Action creates clarity. You don't need the perfect plan before you start. You just need to start. The path reveals itself through movement. The mistakes you fear making are not signs of failure. They are part of the process. Every wrong step teaches you something valuable that waiting never could. While others are standing still, paralyzed by the fantasy of the perfect time, you'll be moving forward, learning, growing, and improving. And before long, those imperfect steps will carry you farther than perfect waiting ever could. Every person who has ever achieved greatness has faced obstacles. Challenges are not optional in life, they are guaranteed. What separates the average from the extraordinary is not the absence of obstacles, but the way they respond to them. Winners are not those who had an easy road. Winners are those who acted despite the roadblocks. They moved forward even when the path was uncertain, even when fear whispered in their ear, even when setbacks tried to break their spirit. Obstacles are not the enemy, they are the test. They reveal who truly wants it and who only says they want it. When you encounter resistance, you have two choices. You can stop and complain, or you can push forward and grow stronger. Most people choose the first option. They throw their hands up, blaming circumstances, other people, or bad luck. Winners choose the second option. They understand that every obstacle is an opportunity in disguise. The struggle is not there to defeat them. It is there to sharpen them. Think about some of the greatest champions in history. Athletes who played injured, entrepreneurs who built businesses while broke, leaders who rose in times of crisis. None of them had a smooth path. What made them legendary was not perfection. It was persistence. They refused to let obstacles stop them. Instead, they used obstacles as stepping stones, as fuel, as motivation to go harder. They acted when others froze. They found solutions when others saw only problems. The truth is, if you wait until life is free of challenges before you act, you will never act at all. Life will always place barriers in your way. The question is, will you use those barriers as excuses or as training grounds? Winners treat every obstacle like a gym for the mind and spirit. Each setback is a weight that makes them stronger. Each failure is a lesson that makes them wiser. Each rejection is a redirection towards something better. Obstacles are powerful because they expose weakness. They reveal the limits of your patience, your discipline, and your determination. But that exposure is a gift, because once you see your weaknesses, you can strengthen them. Without obstacles, you would remain soft, untested, and fragile. With obstacles, you build resilience, toughness, and confidence. That's why winners don't run from difficulty. They embrace it. They know that the harder the challenge, the greater the growth on the other side. The difference between winners and everyone else is not talent, luck, or intelligence. It is mindset. Winners look at the same wall others see, but instead of saying, "This wall blocks me," they say, "How do I climb over it? How do I break through it? How do I go around it?" The wall doesn't disappear, but their perspective turns the wall into a puzzle rather than a prison. That shift in mindset is everything. Because once you realize that obstacles are not dead ends but detours, you stop making excuses and start making progress. It's important to understand that winners don't act because conditions are easy. They act because they refuse to let conditions control them. A storm may rage, but they move anyway. Doubt may linger, but they take the first step anyway. Fear may scream, but they silence it with action. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to act despite fear. Winners are not fearless. They are action takers. And every act of courage builds momentum, pushing them closer to victory. The world does not reward those who avoid obstacles. It rewards those who overcome them. Think about it. Every story worth telling involves struggle. Nobody is inspired by a tale of someone who had everything handed to them, who never faced adversity. What inspires us are the stories of those who rose from the ashes, who kept going when quitting was easier, who fought through pain, doubt, and resistance until they reached their goals. Winners create those stories because they act in the face of difficulty instead of running from it. Sometimes the greatest obstacle is not outside of you, but inside of you. Your doubts, fears, and insecurities are often bigger barriers than any circumstance life throws at you. But winners confront those inner battles. They silence the voice that says, "You can't." They overpower the hesitation that says, "Wait." They prove to themselves day after day that they are stronger than their excuses. And once you conquer the obstacles within, no obstacle outside can ever truly stop you. Remember this, winners are not defined by the absence of obstacles, but by their persistence in overcoming them. Every time they fall, they rise. Every time they stumble, they correct their steps. Every time they face resistance, they push harder. Obstacles are the proving ground of greatness, and winners know that the only way to win is to keep moving. No matter what stands in the way, excuses are not harmless explanations. They are lies we tell ourselves to avoid the discomfort of responsibility, the discipline of consistency, and the courage of action. On the surface, they sound reasonable. I don't have time. I don't have the money. I'm too tired. I'll start when I feel ready. These words seem like truth, but in reality, they are carefully crafted lies that protect us from facing the real problem, our unwillingness to commit fully. When you say you don't have time, what you really mean is, I don't value this enough to prioritize it. Everyone has the same 24 hours. Everyone has the same 24 hours. The difference is how people choose to spend those hours. Some use them to build, grow, and chase their dreams. Others waste them scrolling, sleeping in, or drowning in distractions. Then cover the guilt with the lie of "I'm too busy." The truth is, if it truly mattered, you would find the time. The excuse is a lie designed to make you feel better about not making the effort. When you say you don't have money, what you really mean is, I'm not willing to sacrifice for it. People find money for what they value. They buy the latest phone, eat out, spend on clothes or entertainment, yet claim they can't invest in their growth. The reality is not that you lack resources. It's that you're lying to yourself about what matters most. Winners don't say, I can't afford it. They ask, how can I afford it? They ask, how can I afford it? That shift removes the lie and forces action. When you say you're too tired, what you often mean is, I don't have the discipline to push myself. Fatigue is real, yes, but so is the energy that comes from purpose. You've had days when you were exhausted but suddenly became full of energy when something exciting happened. Why? Because tiredness is often a mental state, not just a physical one. The excuse of exhaustion is a lie that masks a lack of drive. Winners acknowledge fatigue, but they don't let it become a wall. They rest when necessary, but never allow "I'm too tired" to be the lie that stops them from moving forward. Excuses are powerful because they sound like truth. They are believable, logical, even comforting. They let us escape the shame of inaction. But deep down, we always know the difference between an excuse and the truth. That's why excuses eat away at confidence. Every time you repeat a lie to yourself, you lose trust in your own work. You begin to see yourself as someone who doesn't follow through, someone who hides behind stories instead of facing reality. That erosion of self-trust is deadly, because belief in yourself is the foundation of achievement. Think of how excuses grow. At first, they're small lies. I'll start tomorrow. Then tomorrow comes and you say, I'll start next week. Soon those weeks turn into months and those months into years. Each excuse builds on the last until the lies become your truth. You start believing you really don't have time, don't have resources, don't have ability. But the truth is, you always had what it took. You just buried it under layers of lies you repeated until they became your reality. Excuses are not only lies to yourself, they're lies to others. Every time you tell someone you couldn't do something because of circumstances, what you're really saying is, I chose not to make it a priority. Excuses protect your image in the moment but damage your integrity in the long run. People may accept your excuse once or twice, but over time they begin to see the pattern. And when others see you as someone who always has a reason but never results, they stop believing in you. Worse, you stop believing in yourself. The most dangerous thing about excuses is that they disguise failure as something out of your control. If you fail because of an external factor, you don't have to take responsibility. It feels easier to say, "It wasn't my fault." But every time you give your power away to an excuse, you weaken yourself. You reinforce the idea that life controls you instead of you controlling life. Winners refuse to give away that power. They admit when they fall short. They say, "It was my responsibility and I will fix it." That honesty is what builds strength. That rejection of lies is what builds champions. Excuses are lies, and lies always cost more than the truth. They cost time because they delay action. They cost opportunities because they keep you from seizing the moment. They cost relationships because people lose trust in you. And most of all, they cost you your potential. You could have been more, done more, achieved more, but the lies you told yourself held you back. The moment you strip away excuses and face the truth, you gain freedom. The truth may hurt, but it also heals. Saying "I didn't make time" is painful, but it also empowers you, because if it was your choice, then you can make a different choice. Saying "I didn't prioritize" it stings, but it reminds you that priorities are under your control. Lies keep you stuck, truth sets you free. And freedom is where growth begins. When we look at successful people, it's easy to only see the highlight reel, the fame, the victories, the recognition, the wealth, and the applause. We admire the polished results and often convince ourselves they had something we didn't. More talent, more luck, more resources, or better opportunities. But what we don't see at first glance are the battles behind the scenes. Every successful person, no matter how high they've climbed, has faced struggles, setbacks, and failures that nearly broke them. The difference between them and those who gave up is simple. They refuse to let those struggles define them. Struggles are the price of success. Nothing worth achieving comes without resistance. Just as a seed must push through the soil to reach the light, every person who has achieved greatness has had to fight through darkness, doubt, and difficulty. Their path wasn't smooth, it was filled with obstacles. But instead of stopping at those obstacles, they kept going. They turned pain into fuel, rejection into redirection, and failure into wisdom. Take any athlete who has become a champion. Behind every medal and trophy are years of sacrifice, injuries, grueling training sessions, and moments of deep self-doubt. They didn't wake up one day at the top. They fell, they lost, they suffered setbacks. What made them champions wasn't a life free from struggle. It was their determination to rise every single time they were knocked down. Entrepreneurs who build successful businesses often start with nothing but an idea and a dream. Along the way, they face financial hardship, rejection from investors, sleepless nights, and countless failures. Many of them have gone bankrupt, been laughed at, or told that their vision would never work. Yet the ones who succeeded were those who embraced the struggle as part of the journey. They didn't see failure as final. They saw it as feedback. Every obstacle became a lesson that sharpened them for the next challenge. Artists, creators, and leaders are no different. The most admired works of art, inventions, and movements in history came from people who endured rejection, criticism, and hardship. The world often told them a no, but they kept showing up with their yes. Their struggles gave their work depth, meaning, and authenticity. Without the pain they endured, their triumphs would not have been as powerful. The truth is, struggle is universal. Nobody escapes it. Success does not mean avoiding struggle. It means using it. It means transforming the weight of adversity into the strength that carries you forward. Struggle builds resilience. It teaches patience. It reveals your true character. It shows you how badly you want something. Without struggle, success would be shallow and meaningless. It is the fight, the persistence, the sleepless nights, the sweat, the tears, and the refusal to quit that give victory its value. What many people forget is that struggles are not signs of failure. They are signs of growth. If you are struggling, it means you are pushing beyond your comfort zone. It means you are reaching for something greater than where you are now. Struggle is evidence that you're in the process of transformation. Every successful person has gone through that same fire, and it is the fire that forged their strength. The reason most people never reach their potential is not because they face struggles. It's because they give up when struggles arrive. They see difficulty as a stop sign, while winners see difficulty as a green light to push harder. The successful don't escape hardship, they master it. They make a choice every day to rise instead of retreat, to keep going when every part of them wants to quit. That decision, repeated over and over, is what separates success from mediocrity. If you look closely at any story of success, you'll notice a pattern. There is always a moment, or many moments, when the person could have quit, a point where it seemed impossible, where the pain outweighed the progress, where the dream felt too far away. Most people stop at that point, but successful people pressed on. They endured when others gave up. They kept fighting even when nobody believed in them. That is why their success shines so brightly, because it was earned through struggle. The next time you admire someone's success, don't envy their results without respecting their journey. Understand that what you see now is built on a foundation of failures, sacrifices, and hardships that they endured and overcame. Their struggles made them who they are. And if they could rise from their struggles to achieve greatness, so can you. What excuses thrive in the absence of discipline? They grow in the gaps where structure, commitment, and consistency should be. Whenever discipline is weak, excuses step in to take control. They whisper reasons, create delays, and provide false comfort. But when discipline is strong, excuses have no room to survive. Discipline is the antidote, the cure that silences every excuse and forces action, no matter how you feel in the moment. Discipline is not about perfection. It's not about never making mistakes. It's about showing up consistently, even when you don't feel like it, even when conditions aren't ideal, and even when nobody is watching. Discipline is the ability to choose long-term reward over short-term comfort. And that choice, repeated day after day, is what separates those who succeed from those who stay stuck in excuses. Excuses are easy because they appeal to emotion. They play on feelings of tiredness, laziness, fear, and doubt. But discipline doesn't listen to feelings, it listens to commitment. Discipline doesn't ask, do I feel like it today? Discipline says, I do it because I said I would. And that is why it is the ultimate antidote. Excuses are built on weakness. Discipline is built on strength. Think about how excuses sound. I'll do it later. I'll start tomorrow. I'm too busy today. These are just ways of saying, I don't want to face the discomfort right now. Discipline responds with action. Discipline says, later is not guaranteed. Tomorrow is not promised. The only time is now. And when you act in the now, excuses lose their power. Every great achievement is a product of discipline. Athletes don't reach championship level by working only when they feel motivated. They train day in and day out through pain, fatigue, and setbacks. Writers don't finish books by waiting for inspiration. They sit down every day, writing even when the words come slowly. Entrepreneurs don't build businesses by waiting for the perfect moment. They wake up early, stay up late, and keep showing up despite rejection. Keep showing up despite rejection. The common denominator is discipline. It is the bridge between goals and results, between intentions and accomplishments. Excuses are short-term relief. They make you feel good in the moment but leave you empty in the long run. Discipline is the opposite. It feels difficult in the moment but leaves you fulfilled in the long run. That's why people who lack discipline often live with regret, while people who practice discipline live with pride. Every act of discipline is an investment in your future self. Every excuse is a debt your future self will have to pay. The beauty of discipline is that it compounds. The more you practice it, the stronger it becomes. At first, it's hard to wake up early, to exercise, to study, to work on your goals. The excuses scream louder than your willpower. But every time you push through and act despite resistance, you strengthen the muscle of discipline. Over time, that muscle grows so strong that excuses barely whisper anymore. What once felt impossible becomes automatic. What once felt like a struggle becomes your standard. Discipline also creates freedom. At first, that sounds contradictory. How can following strict routines and commitments lead to freedom? But the truth is, when you are disciplined, you are no longer a slave to excuses, emotions, or impulses. You don't waste time negotiating with yourself, deciding whether to act or not. The decision has already been made. You act because discipline says so. That structure frees your mind to focus on growth rather than guilt. It gives you the freedom to trust yourself, because you know you'll follow through. Without discipline, excuses multiply endlessly. You say you'll start exercising, but you miss one day, then another, until the habit disappears. You promise yourself you'll work on your dream, but distractions keep winning, and the dream fades. Discipline prevents that slide. It anchors you to your commitments and keeps you moving forward when excuses try to drag you backward. Think of discipline as armor. Life will throw obstacles, excuses, and temptations at you every single day. Without armor, you are vulnerable. You get hit, you stumble, you stop. With discipline, you are protected. The obstacles still come, but they don't break you. The excuses still whisper, but they don't control you. The temptations still appear, but you walk past them because your armor holds strong. Discipline is not natural for anyone at the start. Nobody is born with unshakable discipline. It is built through small, consistent actions. It's built by doing the thing you promised yourself you would do, even when every part of you wants to quit. It's built in the moments when excuses shout the loudest and you decide to silence them with action. And every time you choose discipline over excuse, you take one step closer to the life you want. At the end of the day, excuses are chains, and every time you make one, you tighten those chains around your potential. But the moment you decide to take responsibility, the moment you choose discipline over comfort, the moment you embrace struggle instead of avoiding it, you break those chains. The world doesn't reward excuses. It rewards results. It rewards action. It rewards the ones who show up, push forward, and refuse to surrender no matter what stands in their way. So stop telling yourself the story of why you can't and start living the story of how you will. Stop waiting for the perfect time and start creating the time. Stop lying to yourself with excuses and start telling yourself the truth. You are capable, you are strong, and you have everything it takes. From this moment on, draw the line. No more reasons, no more delays, no more delays, no more maybe tomorrow. The standard is clear, the mindset is simple, the choice is yours, no excuses.